Whenever I look in a mirror, I see a reflection of the future. My earliest memory is one of a pool party at Harry Larson's house. I didn't see the chipper faces of my toddler pals reflected in the surface of the water. Instead, I saw Mr. Larson doing laps. He wasn't at the house that day. He was on a business trip. I started crying, and my parents took me home. I was only 3 years old, so I couldn't effectively verbalize what had upset me. But the visions didn't stop there. In every reflective surface, I saw things that were misaligned with reality. I never saw reflections of the present moment. Ricky has a vivid imagination, my mum explained to the psychiatrist. He sees things that aren't really there. But only when he looks at mirrors, Dr. Tunstall asked. All reflections, my mum replied. Is it schizophrenia? I'm hesitant to diagnose Ricky just yet, the doctor replied. It could be his way of expressing an overactive imagination. Let's keep an eye on things, shall we? I was young, but old enough to know that my claims were being dismissed. I started to hide my prophetic power. I didn't know what the doctor's big words meant, but I remember being perturbed by the tones of voice that were used in that room. So, from the age of 4 onwards, I pretended to be like any other child. Yes, Mum. Of course I see myself in the mirror. Nothing and nobody else. I understand their skepticism. As an adult, I would probably accept the hallucination diagnosis. But on July the 1st, 2004, I saw Liam falling backwards in the reflection of a car's pearlescent surface. My friend who was gleefully playing football at the time. An hour later, when the car sped off the driveway, the horrifying prophecy came true. Little Liam was hit by the reversing vehicle and rushed to hospital. I finally realized what I saw in reflections. The future. I finally embraced the terrible truth that I had no psychological issues. Well, none in the sense that my mother and doctor imagined. It was the first time I'd seen the events depicted in a reflection come to life, and it wouldn't be the last. I'm 28 years old. For years, my prophecies have been mundane. Nothing as sinister as that fateful summer afternoon with my childhood friend. Of course, I wouldn't be here if I had no more stories to tell. In fairness, I always thought my ability to be terrifying in itself, an anomaly with no explanation. But 2 months ago, I saw the true face of terror. Nothing's been the same since. I work as a graphic designer in Manchester, the city of a million mirrors. Commuters litter the pavements, but different faces appear in the ground-level windows of skyscrapers. Sometimes, even in the early morning, those glassy towers reflect a blackened sky and the orange glow of streetlights. I could be seeing a reflection of the street on that same night, or a night 3 years into the future. I have no way of knowing. But 2 months ago, I saw something unsettling in the window of a particular city centre building. Something I'd never seen in a reflection before. The present. That wasn't what frightened me, however. Once the initial shock subsided, I found myself focusing on a disturbing detail in the background. Something was squatting beneath the menu sign for a restaurant. a horrid thing. Shriveled, gaunt-faced, a demented interpretation of a man. Horrified, I twisted my head to find nothing beneath the real-life sign. When I returned my gaze to the window, I was faced with a reflection of that same street in the future. Different faces, different cars. Everything was back to normal. My idea of normal. However, every morning that followed, the malevolent man revealed himself in numerous reflections, only ever for a fleeting moment, always around dusk, the hour of the gloaming. And that's how I came to name the terrible, inexplicable spectre. It wasn't the present that would come to haunt me. As always, it was the future. And the gloamer would prove himself to be not a warning, but a promise. "Drinks after work?" Holly asked. "Of course. That's got to be a statement, not a question," I said, grinning. "You're okay with Anna coming, right?" Terry asked. "Sure," Holly replied. "I don't know about you, though." At 5 p.m, my colleagues and I piled into Holly's car. And I immediately noticed something odd. Her rearview mirror reflected blackness. I cast my eyes to the wing mirror, and in it, I saw a different reflection. A scarcely lit, scenic road at twilight. I thought nothing of it, as I rarely think anything of my visions. Reflections rarely depict events that I end up witnessing. Not since Liam. "Oh, we're gonna miss the last train, Anna. How are you getting back, Ricky?" "Don't be silly," Holly scoffed, rolling her eyes. "Why do you think I stopped after one drink? I'm the designated driver. I won't drop you off at the train station. I'll take you straight home." On the drive out of the city, I found myself pressed against the passenger window, blurry-eyed, with my ears ringing from a lethal concoction of club music and Terry's tone-deaf singing. Familiar scenery rolled by, a landscape I'd seen reflected in the wing mirror earlier, countryside illuminated by dregs of dawning light. However, when I looked at the wing mirror again, that same glass pane reflected only darkness, much like the rearview mirror. Holly groaned. "What's this?" A large red sign in the road read, "Diversion, turn right." The colours swam in my tired, inebriated vision, but they were just as familiar to me as the country road itself. I realised I'd seen the sign before. Prior to our night out, I'd seen those words reversed in the front windshield of Holly's car. I was deeply unnerved by the number of premonitions that I was seeing unfold before my very eyes. I couldn't quite put my finger on what was disturbing me, but my stomach was twisting and tightening. And as we veered down the right-hand country lane, I was certain, if only for a moment, that a burst of light filled the blackened wing mirror. It revealed a ghoulish glimpse of the present. The gloamer was crouching behind the road sign. The creature had twisted his lifeless, decomposing face in the direction of our car. Yellow, maggot-ridden eyes locked onto mine. Terrified by the phantom that stalked us, and unable to resolve the sense of impending doom in my chest, I murmured in a drunken panic. The reflection in the wing mirror turned to darkness. "You okay, champ?" Holly asked. "I think 2 ciders might have been too many." "Holly!" Anna screamed. She only took her eyes off the road for a moment, but it was all over in a matter of seconds. We were upside down, engulfed by a brutish blanket of crumpled metal. The 2-foot-deep pothole was an unmarked hazard that should have been filled by the council years ago. And that was when I recalled all of the other signs that I'd missed over the weeks since first encountering the Gloma. You see, so many things in our world are reflective. People's eyes, for instance. And I used to stare into Holly's brilliantly blue marbles every single day, lost in her gentle gaze, oblivious to the horrifying reflection of the future that I'd seen in her pupils. Broken, red-tinged glass. A figure at the end of a dark road. A premonition that finally made sense as I regained consciousness and slowly wriggled my battered body through the passenger door. Rolling onto the grass, I eyed the flattened back end of the wreckage. Terry and Anna had been pancaked. Holly's twitching body hung, still seatbelted, in the upside-down driver's seat, impaled by glass and metal. Her near-lifeless blue eyes mirrored the scene of horror that I'd seen countless times over countless weeks. A premonition that I'd overlooked. Shards of glass, blood. A figure at the end of the road. And as I lay on the tarmac, sobbing at the accident that had consumed 3 of my friends, the sound of crunching gravel drew my gaze. At the outermost reach of the headlights, I saw the Gloma, but I did not see him in a reflection. I screeched until my throat cracked, and the ghoulish abomination scurried on hands and feet into the darkness. Shortly afterwards, blackness consumed me. I woke alone in the hospital. Weeks have passed since that day, but the Gloma has stayed with me. Even in my visions of the future, I'm now certain I see that crouching figure in the distance, watching, waiting. Even drinking a glass of water fills me with the fear that those horrible yellow eyes might be staring back at me. When will this nightmare end?